Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Q&A Cafe today for Business by Design. Today we have Laura Hurkalo, and she'll be presenting on the topic, create pricing procedures using custom fields, and of course, SAP Business by Design. Everyone will stay on mute just so we can cut down on the background noise. So if you have any questions, just put them in the questions box or the chat box. Also, I put in the handout for this PowerPoint presentation. It's in the handouts section, so you can download that for future reference. Also, you'll be getting a nice recording of this session once the auto email goes out through the GoToWebinar tool. Also, we have a special session that we just set up actually for this Friday. It's not a Q&A cafe, but it's with Catherine Alford. She's been getting a lot of requests from our customers on this particular subject. So please sign up for how to set up and file a 1099 NEC form in SAP Business by Design. I imagine that form needs to be in by the end of this month. So she's been getting a lot of requests for that. So she's going to do a live session, and of course it will be recorded and put on our YouTube channel along with everything else. Next Wednesday, same place, same time, we'll be having our regular scheduled Q&A cafes. That one is netting payables, receivables in SAP Business by Design. So I'm going to put myself on mute, and then I'll hand it over to Laura.
Great. And if another addendum, if you can't make it on Friday to the 1099 session, there also, I think we sent out a document that that details exactly how to set it up and how to administrate it. Because again, I'm pretty sure it's due January 31st of this year. So if you do have 1099 employees, it's best to get that done and out of the way since there's only 11 days left to get it done. So there's a whole host of information out there, either the webinar, the recording, or a document that will help guide you through that. And then again, if you have any questions, I do know how to set it up too, so you can always reach out to me.
Sorry, Laura, and yeah, that document is on our blog page as well. So if you go to vistaviewsolutions.com and you go to our blog page, news and blogs, you'll find that NEC form for yourself.
Oh, right, good. So today our session is going to be all about custom pricing tables and how they work within Business by Design. So some of the problems that we might be solving with using the custom pricing tables using field extensions. You just think ByDesign just doesn't have enough flexibility and special pricing procedures out of the box. I want to add special surcharges automatically. I want to add different types of freight. I want to do all kinds of different things. I want to have other special types of pricing lists or discount lists by other, other fields in the system. That's the main reason why you would kind of choose to use this. Another piece is that if at some point you decided that you need to use or want to use company-specific or currency-specific pricing, if you are, currency-specific pricing can be turned off, company-specific pricing cannot. And when SAP released these two functions, even though they're very generic because it is either just currency or company and nothing else, like no other account or things like that, it puts it to the bottom of the decision tree, which means that it's the first thing that it looks at. So if the pricing procedure finds the company that matches the company in the price list, none of your other specific pricing will work. So if you have customer group, distribution channel, even customer specific pricing, that all gets overridden. So I've used in the past because when you turn it on, if you want to turn it off, you basically have to reconfigure your system. I've used this to get around that company specific. So any of the custom pricing procedures will fall to the bottom of the list and then take precedence over everything else. Some of the other things, I want to give discounts for certain customers and not others for a certain time. Like maybe you're having a fire sale for excess inventory. This allows you to create special price lists with overlapping validity dates, as an example. So, maybe you don't want to change your entire base price list, but you want to say, okay, for this particular time frame, all of my customers for these this set of products is going to get this price list. So it really gives you a lot more flexibility in being able to do different pricing or discounts. Some of the other pieces too, you know, if you want to calculate freight based on a custom field, so let's say, you know, based on the customer, whatever, as a distance potentially from your distribution center out to a particular customer. Let's say you're in Delaware like me, and you know I have a zone 1, which is the East Coast, and they get a surcharge of or a freight of $50 overall, versus someone on the West Coast. If I have to truck all the way there, it's going to be $500. So you can actually create dynamic freight rates based on a custom field. And there's a lot of different ways that you can configure that, which makes it really really flexible. And the same thing with like a surcharge. You might want to say, if you're in the example that I set up was we're transporting orchids. You know, they need special care, they need to special packaging, they need to go faster. So I might actually add a sort of surcharge onto a particular item on a sales order that upcharges for something like a heavy, fragile, you know, an expiration date type of item requiring more care. All right. So in short, how do I create this magical object which I can use pricing off of? So we'll go through it step by step. It does take a bit of configuration because you're going to want to use this field in other places in the system. So we'll go through step by step. In some cases, for me, at least what I found as I've been working through this, it is a little bit of a trial and error to get the things that you want in the right fashion and in the right bucket. So don't get super discouraged. If you have issues, if you're trying to use this, please reach out to me and I can help set it up. So the big thing is we're going to create extension fields. So you would create an extension field if you want the extension to exist on an account or an item. So you can drive the different pricing procedures from either the account for header level pricing list and discount list, or you can do it from like products and services from item-based tables. The surcharges, discounts, and freights live kind of, it says at the item level, even though you can still calculate it based on a field in the header. But you can drive it, like I said, from either position in the system. So I might say this one item on this order gets a special surcharge or a special discount, or on the header level, this customer or this group of customers gets this particular price list or this particular discount list, or even this customer exists in this zone, and so they get this particular freight rate. After the extension field's created, we're going to extend the field to pricing, and then everywhere else in the system. If you are a key user, I know I see that there is at least one key user on here that we've had some experience extending out these fields. You'll want to put it to all your business objects where you want to show it. At a minimum, you'll want it on the you'll just want it on the sales order and most likely the invoice. It doesn't necessarily need to go anywhere else in the system, but I always like to be safe than sorry, and I put it everywhere I can. We're then going to go through, so within business configuration, there's an option called configure price strategy, and within that configure price strategy, there are 3 different places that we need to go to actually configure and activate that particular price list. So I'm going to go through a pretty simple example today. I have 2 configured, depending on the time and how long it takes. I'll go back and I'll show you kind of a different setup and configuration for a discount list. So I've created a price list, and then I've created a separate one for a discount list. So I can show you the little bit of a difference in there. So let's pop into the system and we'll go live on this. And like I said, if you want, in the handouts, this presentation is there. Kayla, I'm sure we'll post this out into the home page as well, but all the, all the documentation is here for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to have this extension field drive a specific price list for customer tiers. You're going to have a top tier, maybe based on sales or, product volume or things like that rather than net value. And so I'm going to create it from the account, and I'm going to create that as a new price list. So what we're going to do first is actually create that field. So I've already kind of done that for us already, but we'll walk you through what this entails and what you need to take consideration for. So if I edit my Home Depot record, we'll have a field called customer tier. Let's see. So we'll see our field as customer tier here. So if we wanted to add that field, you'll go into as a key user. So you have to have application and user management and the business flexibility work center view activated to get yourself in the key user to be able to allow you to do this. So within the details section, even though this is already added, if you wanted to add a new field, you'd go to the section where you want that to appear, click extension fields, or if you wanted to modify the field, you go to the same kind of place, and then you'll see that you've got customer tier. If I wanted to create a new field, so again, I would just fill in the field label, technical name, the tooltip, and then what type of field it is. So one of the things to note in here, typically it's going to be a list value that you're going to want to use in here. Pretty sure none of the other fields in here will work for creating price lists. I know for a fact that indicator doesn't work. So if you've got something where you're like, this person or this account or this product gets a discount or not, you have to use a list field to say yes or no, as opposed to an indicator box. Again, just something to keep aware of when you're actually configuring this. So once you actually have your field, so customer tier is already added, you'll add it to the screen. It'll appear here. If you want to change the title, you can do that from the screen. Then you'll go in from the account into the show further usage, and you'll put it to the extension scenario. So basically, this is where we're activating it through the business transaction to make it show up in every place within the system. So at a minimum, you'd want to bring it to just the sales and general information. That's really about all you need to. I'll put it to the invoice request. Sometimes I'll just put it anywhere I know that's going to impact like an order to cash. So if you're doing things with services or whatnot, you want to do it for the services. And that just allows it to appear in any of those business documents. And that's all you need for there. And then when you go back into the custom fields area, you'll close out of there and then publish, overwrite it for people or whatnot, whatever you need to do. And then we can go back, and what we'll do after we add it to the customer, the next step in the process is to extend the field out to the sales transaction and further on. I'm not going to go through every single business document. I'll give you kind of the lather, rinse, repeat instruction on how to do that. But you'll want to take it from account to sales. If you're doing a straight order to cash with products, it's delivery request, outbound delivery, invoice request, and then invoice, and you'll carry that figure through or carry that field through. So after we publish, we'll go in, and then if you haven't done this before and you're not used to this, wherever you want that field to appear in this document, you'll have to kind of go into each of the different screens. So maybe I want to keep that customer tier to appear in the overview. So I'd have to go to the overview screen and then do that same process. So within details, I'd want to go in and open up the open up extension fields again, and that field will be in there. So by default, again, if you haven't done this before, by default, any of the fields that you activate for a particular transaction don't automatically appear in every single view, like the overview, the quick access floor plan, and then the whole object instance floor plan. So you'll have to go in and actually do that process for each of those. So it's typically 2 to 3 different, probably 3 different screens if you want them to appear everywhere in the system. And then again, just as more of a side note, as we get through the extension stuff, if you want it to appear in your work list as searchable, you also have to go into like the accounts field, and you'll have to you would do the same thing. Within here, you would add that field. And if you want to add it as a searchable field, you would add it directly up here as well. And then it becomes kind of a searchable field for you. So that's just a little appendixy side note for you if you haven't had experience with those. So the next step is to actually bring it onto the sales order. So we'll go into sales order and common tasks, and then create that. And this is kind of the big piece of where you're needing to get this activated for the actual pricing procedure. So again, we've added in already our custom tier. And so we'll go into the delivery, and we'll open up our extension fields. And then what we want to do, so there's 2 things. Once you add the field in to the screen, back out of here, publish it, and then go back in, because some of the web services don't appear until you actually add and publish this field onto the screen. So it's just a little extra step in there. So let's pop into the customer tier, and we'll go into show further usage. And so that's where, again, all of the extension scenarios are going to be listed, and then any of our services, so the web services. So what now appears when we do have a sales related field that we want to use in CRM, you'll see the CRM pricing at the header level. So we want to go into here, and you want to add the field in for this. Absolutely, otherwise you won't see it as an available option to choose in your lists, in your pricing procedure. Once that's selected, the next place, so yeah, and you're gonna kind of go in here and extend out that field into the different objects, and then you'll go in and do exactly what I'm doing now. You don't have to, the CRM pricing only exists on the sales, but you'll want to go in and go through and activate that field wherever you see fit that you need it. Once a published field is available, you'll now see, once you add in that CRM pricing, that you've got 2 different options for web services here. So it's called calculate price for price list and calculate price for price specification. You want to add both of those in. One's for, obviously your price list, and then your price specifications will be for any sort of discount list, freight, surcharges, anything like that. Right? So those are the 2 big things. If you don't add that CRM pricing in these services, you won't see those fields that you create in the system. All right, so once our field's created and we are good to go, we can, again, publish again, and then exit out of adaptation mode. And then we are ready to create our pricing table. So within business configuration and implementation projects, this is, if I'm not mistaken, this is one that doesn't need a change project. You can come in here without having to do a change project. You can do immediate changes, I'm pretty sure. But you come in, open your activity list, or if you want to create a change project. If you have a test system, I highly, highly recommend, obviously, it's never good to do stuff directly in production. The one thing to note about this, when you start creating your pricing tables, the price tables themselves can't be deleted. It's quite annoying, even if you haven't used them anywhere. They can't be deleted, and they can't be updated. Once they're in there and they're saved, they're kind of there forever. So if you are tinkering around with this, and you're working through a lot of different scenarios, you're going to wind up having a lot of noise in the system. So I would, again, until you are comfortable with something, either do a change project or do it in a test environment. But the fine-tuning option is configure your price strategy. And for those of you who haven't seen this, it basically has, you know, everything that you want to know about pricing. So first off, and this doesn't really impact these pricing tables that we're creating, but really this is kind of how the standard procedures are listed. If you don't like how something looks in the printout of your form, like the description, you can change them here. This also allows you to just determine, you know, if there's a total display or not, or only if it's greater than 0. And then whether something has, you know, if there's a warranty or manual entry, has priority or things like that. So you can change some of these things around. And here, so you've got surcharges, you know, based on quantity or a fixed amount. So you can change some of these things, quality or loss fee, if you want to change some of those. I know, you know, a lot of people complain sometimes that we can't do discounts for fixed amounts, but some of the other areas in the system, you do have the ability to impact, you know, impact how that calculation is happening, whether it's a fixed flat amount, whether it's a basis of the quantity per or a percentage, and you can change those. And so the same thing, you know, even with like freight, depending on how you have it set up in business configuration, if you've got a flat rate, or if you want to use some different types of volumetric calculations, you know, net, gross, weight, volume, you can change those around as well. So it's just some other little trinkets of information in case you wanted to change some of those things around or didn't like how some of them are looking. So the first step in activating this, this table is to go in and actually create your pricing table. So we'll go into pricing table. And for this scenario, since we're doing a price list for this, we're going to ignore the description here. We're going to create, there's 2 types of pricing tables. Again, there's your header level and your item level. So your header level is basically, if you're looking at your price list, you're seeing in there, the header level is actually what fields you're going to be filling in that are the separators for that price list. So in my example here, all I want to do is set up 4 different price lists because I have 4 different tiers of customers. I don't really care what company they're in or what sales org or anything like that. But you know, you can see all the different fields that you have available for you to add. And you know, the other thing to note too, you don't necessarily need to have a custom field driving these things. If there's other price lists that are more, that you need more flexibility or, you know, segregation out, like maybe you want to have price lists based on Incoterms or freight based on Incoterms or things like that, you can select any of the predefined fields that are already in here. You don't need to create a custom field. So in my example, you know, all I was using was the customer tier because it's, again, super simple example. And it's going to be at the header level. And then I can define kind of what fields on the item. So when I go into the actual item level itself, if I was doing something on the item level, that's going to be what fields are being used to determine the table in the you know, in the second tab in your price list, so your items tab. So if you are doing, I'll get back to that. We'll just continue with this simple example. So we're just going to do our customer tier pricing, and it's just going to be at the header level. So basically what that means is when I select an account with one of those tiers, it's going to pull that pricing. Otherwise, if it doesn't, it's going to keep going to the next step in the chain and figure out where it needs to apply pricing. And so once I do that, the next thing is to determine the sequence. And so again, the way that that ByDesign works, you've got, so you want to see kind of where it's going to go. You've got both header level types of pricing and then overall discounting, and then you've got gross and gross and net, and then you can have some product category hierarchy. So then you've got all of your sort of item level types of surcharges and discounts that are listed here. So in our example, we're doing a header level price list, and then you'll see how SAP, how ByDesign is pulling these different, you have all these different pricing tables that you have available to you that can be pulled into your groups, into your pricing group assignments. So you can have a lot more options, but then you'll see down here that you've got, customer, company, customers, some other groups and things like that I've created. So anywhere from here up, and so what'll happen as you've added any of these things in, the way that the system works, it starts from the bottom and it works its way up. So you always want to have your most specific price list at the bottom. But then again, as I mentioned, if you have company specific activated in here, that's going to always be at the bottom and it's going to always pick that first. So that's why you would use these. But if you want to move them around, you just select them. So any of your customer ones, sorry, the other thing that I didn't mention is that any of these all have to start with CUS. So any of your fields have to start with CUS. But you'll see in here that I've got my different fields. So like for this one, it's just basically company. So I've created, a custom company one that gets around sort of some of the issues potentially. And then your sales organization, distribution channel, if there's campaigns or things like that, those will become part of the mandatory fields that you're going to want to fill in when you have your field, when you have your pricing procedure. One of the other things to note in here too, back on the actual definitions of the pricing table itself, one of the other areas, and this is a new feature that was just added in, I think in the last release, and I was actually I got to play around with it because I wasn't exactly sure what they meant about it, but there's this option called process type. And so you can select that in this field. So you then have the capability to determine a specific business object where this pricing table will appear, whether it's on like a return, an invoice, a credit memo, a sales order, or a service order. So you might have, an item that you sell out to regular customers on a sales order, but you also might have spare parts that are consumed on a service order that get a different price because they're consumed as part of the actual service itself. So, or you might not offer a particular discount on a service order. So you do have, again, a little bit more, also more flexibility as to how those discounts are applied to the different business objects within the system. And then the last piece after the access sequence, and this is the one that, again, it's taken me quite a while to play around with these to figure out the right way to configure them. There are some decent help guides in the system, but they're a little bit outdated with how some of the functionality works. So again, if you have problems kind of working on them, just reach out to me. But in this example, again, we're going to do prices. So you'll see, we didn't add in all of the specific ones that were available in that last drop-down list. So this is where you're actually activating it to pull into the drop-down list. So in this example, we've got one, we're calling it tiered pricing, and then I'm going to add in my header pricing table. So that's going to be that route freight that we just created in there at the header level, so that it's going to pull my header level pricing. And then you've got your item pricing table. And so for me, because I'm doing a base price list, I'm going to do it for my products and services because that's what I'm going to enter. But you'll see in here that you've got some other options on your items. So you've got customer specific discounts, contract item prices, or things like that. And then you can have on your header all these different sort of predefined predefined lists in here. And the system's always going to be checking. Some of the things to kind of keep aware of is that it's not best practice to use the same field in various pricing procedures. The system might throw up a little bit because it's not quite sure where to pull it from, and it's overlapping. So you don't necessarily use the same field in a base price list and then a discount list and then a surcharge list. You'd want other ones available for there. So that's really all you need to do. So now once we've activated this tiered pricing with our field called customer tier, we can go ahead and add our new base price list. And so in order to do that, we'll go into the product and service portfolio, and then you'll see your price lists in here. And now that new option, tiered pricing, is now available. And we'll just go in and edit the one that I have. So you see now my customer tier, because that was the only option that I chose on that screen. That's the only thing that was available for me to choose. But I can see that I've got pricing for customer tier 1 and customer tier 2. So we'll show you an example on how that on how it works real quickly. So in this example for my tier 1 customer, I've got my 6-inch exotic orchid in the deco pot. That's $650 for my tier 1 customers. And then if I'm going into my tier 2 customers, it's going to be $750. And then if I look at my base price list, it's going to be like $31 or something like that. But if you create just new tiered pricing, again, you'll see just the name, and you'll see your customer tier that are listed here. So everything that you're appending in the list is dynamically going to be updated as you create new list values through adaptation. So let's see this bad boy in action. Let's go in and create a new sales order. And got our Home Depot. So what you'll see that currently the customer tier is tier 4, and I don't have a price list for that. I only have 1 and 2. So we're going to do our 6-inch orchid and our deco pot. As you can see, I'm thinking about spring already with my orchids and flowers, but you'll now notice that because it's the customer tier 4, it's just pulling the base price list at $31.20. Now dynamically, if I go back in and change that to 1, it's going to update my pricing to $650. If I change it to tier 2, it's now going to change it to $750. So you can see how, again, that's it does some pretty nice things for you in that respect. Okay. So that is just a simple example, and then I've configured another one, and we can walk through because it is a little bit more. It's a little bit more detailed. It's doing like a discount based on again based on a drop down list. So this was kind of an example from a customer of mine where they had specific customer grouping type of discounts, and then they had other customer specific discounts, but then they also had additional discounts that overlaid all of the other things that they called a DDR discount, which was a dealer, distributor, and retailer discount. Typically, we're handling that through distribution channel, but we can account for that. So in that example, I've created just a field on the sales order actually called DDR. So you've got dealer, distributor, and retailer. And we've activated just the same way that we did before. And then in the pricing tables, this is where it is a little bit different because we're, with this discount, so we're gonna activate at the header level a customer, dealer, distributor, retailer discount at the header level, and we want to segregate it out by customer or by company and sales organization. And then what we want to do is activate that guy at the line level. So we've got our item level information. And so basically, this is again what's going to dictate what appears on that item, that, you know, the item tab within your pricing list. So when you're using a list value, and at the item level, this list identifier always needs to be first. You'll get some warnings if you don't have it first, but don't forget to do that. And then I'm going to add that field, my custom field. So when I pull that up, I'm only ever going to see, you know, sort of 3 values that are dealer, distributor, or retailer as the selection in here. And so you'll do this the same way if you're going to be configuring freight or surcharges or things like that. And so the same thing then holds true. So I've got those 2 fields that are appearing here, and then my access sequence, I'm going to add in my discount list, so that customer DDR discount, and then on the discounts at the item level, I'm going to add that other field. So you have to match up from the header discount list to the item discount, you know, the item discounts, and you'll see that appear there. Right. And then the last piece is going to be your pricing group assignments. And then I'll want my discounts. And so I select discount, and then you'll have your header pricing table, which we activated in the last step as that DDR discount. And that's going to be based on my sales organization and company at the overall header level of that discount list. And then my item pricing table is going to pull that field called DDR. And so that's going to change how this looks a little bit when I go in to configure it. And if I go into the pricing and discount lists, I'll now see that I've got my option in here for that DDR. And I've got my mandatory fields are going to be my sales organization and my company. And then again, as I look over at the items themselves, I've got, you know, my dealer and distributor pricing that's listed here at 5% and 8%. So if I do then start to change this around a little bit, so I've got my new sales order, and I put in Home Depot again. And so I don't have anything listed in this field. And if I'm going to do my 6-inch to-go pot again, I'll now see that same pricing. But if I change this to dealer, I'll now see a 5% discount appear on my list. Right. And then if I change it to distributor, that'll change now to 8. Right. So with that, those were the 2 scenarios that I did want to show you. Again, there's other options in there to be able to add in special surcharges, and freights, and we can document those if there's any interest in seeing those. Again, just reach out to me. But otherwise, thanks for joining. Again, don't forget that there's the 1099 NEC session on Friday, and then next Wednesday, Alex will be going over the netting of payables and receivables. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thanks, Laura.